This right here is the iFLYTEK AINOTE Air 2. This is an AI-driven e-ink tablet. This thing right here is super thin, super lightweight. With the primary use being note-taking, it provides real-time transcription, multi-language translation, smart scheduling, all in this paper-like digital experience. Combining some of the AI capabilities with the relatively decent hardware, this is one of the more interesting things that has appeared in my P.O. box. Now, full disclosure from the get-go, iFLYTEK is a sponsor. So with that, this is going to be more of a kind of product demo video. And sponsor or not, it's not the absolute most perfect device in the world, so I will be kind of mentioning some of its faults in my opinion near the end. So you can see I already have it here, and I've been using it for a couple days to go ahead and play with it and try it out. And first, we're going to talk about the hardware. So I'm going to remove it from this little case real quick. There we go. Coming at in millimeters, 193 by 137, and roughly 5 to 6.5 millimeters thin, depending on where you look at it. Magnesium aluminum alloy back with a matte fingerprint resistant finish here. It does include a stylus, which is very handy. It is a Wacom EMR stylus, no charging needed. There are 4,096 pressure points, and this little nib here is replaceable. It comes with a charger. The case here is optional. And what I want to talk about real quick now is the e-ink display that we see here. This is an 8.2 inch Carta HD e-ink display with a resolution of 1440 by 920 with 293 pixels per inch. Has a 88.5 screen to body ratio, so the bezels are relatively thin here. On the screen, we can customize how it actually looks. We can completely turn off the backlight. We have low light, dark, and we can set custom. If I dive into settings under brightness, we do have adjustments for cool and warm, as well as the ones you just saw. So I can make it more cool, increase the warmth of the brightness, so you can configure it to how you like for your specific use case and your preference of your eyes. It does have a matte finish, so it does do really good with glare, and again, the writing on it feels absolutely fantastic, which we're going to dive into a bit more once we get into actually taking some notes and all that. Now, for the actual hardware internal specifications, we have a quad-core processor at 1.8 gigahertz. It has 4 gigabytes of RAM and 32 gigabytes of internal storage, 2600 milliamp hour battery, and they claim it has about 7 days-ish of active use, and in standby they say it can last up to 108 days. For the actual ports here, on the top we have a power button and our USB-C, and that's really about it, other than these little side openings, which is used to apply the case, which just uses these divots. You set it on there and it just clips right into place. This device here has 4 microphones in total, and a rear camera that is 5 megapixels. This camera being specifically for doing a document scanning. Now with this device, like I said, I've already been playing around with it, so I've already set it up, updated it, and all that. One thing I kind of forgot to mention is this on top here is a fingerprint reader. So if I go ahead and open it up, hold my fingerprint there, boom, we're in. So in the actual software here, we have 3 sections. We have our notes, our schedule, and reading, and then we have some additional options here. You saw this earlier. When I tap on this, we just get some basic settings, some toggles to turn various things off and on, screenshots, brightness mode, the shape and thickness of our strokes and pen. This is running a very kind of customized and light version of Android. But what I want to do real quick is start with the notes here. So if I go ahead, tap right here, we have folders, you can encrypt them, we have local notes. If I go over to our default folder here, we can see I have a note in here already. But what I'm going to do real quick is just write a new note, just so I can show you how the pen works and how responsive it is. So here we are. If I just do a quick little whoop, you can see that. Look at that. Very responsive. I do like this default here. I don't have the best handwriting in the world, but you can see awesome. E-reader. Very responsive, and like I said, it is pressure sensitive, so I tap right here. Like I said, it is pressure sensitive, so if I go over here and I switch my shape to the paintbrush, for example, let's go with the thick line, so let's open that back up, tap on there. If I draw it very lightly down here, you can see what that looks like, super thin, but as I apply pressure, it gets much thicker. So the pressure sensitivity works very well, very responsive. And another thing that's pretty cool is if I just flip it over, I can erase it just like it's a normal eraser, and there are settings to go ahead and customize this for the eraser size and all that. But it's pretty thick and it works good. So you can just quickly do that and then write something else, get rid of e-reader, overall, when it comes to the actual kind of primary use of this, and that is writing and taking notes, it's really nice. The actual delay is like in the milliseconds for putting something onto the screen. Now let's back out of here and I'm going to show you one of the really cool things, and that's to record. Let's say you are in a classroom and you have a professor talking and you want to get everything he's saying and write notes while you're doing it. This can do that. So I am just going to give an example. I'm going to hit record and then it's going to go ahead and connect. And once it's in here, I'm going to start talking about something such as Docker containers. With Docker containers, there are a few different things you could do for storage. One is to set up Docker volumes, or you can do bind mounts. With bind mounts, you simply attach a local storage such as a data directory to the actual area that it's going to appear in that. So for example, / movies. With volumes, you just give it a volume name. So in this case, we could do like movies, and then you would define the volume later down in the compose file. So gonna hit finish here, and you can see everything that it says. It did really good with the transcription. So once you set up Docker volumes, you can. So it did pretty good with the transcription. Only a couple issues, such as you cannot do bind mounts. I said or you can, but you could always listen to it. And then it's going to go ahead and connect. And once it's in here, I'm going to start talking about something such as Docker containers. With Docker containers. And another really cool thing here that we could do, looking at notes, I hit the little check. If I was wondering, okay, what was the professor, the person in the meeting saying when I wrote this? All I would do is tap on that. So for example, / or if I wanted the volumes, you just give it a volume name. So in this case, or if I tap bind, you can do bind mounts. So it's really nice to be able to see your notes. If you need clarification or something on something that you're writing, you just tap on the note and it will automatically go back into the audio recording and play that part of the audio. Very nifty. It can do transcription like this for up to 15 languages, including English, Spanish, Mandarin, French, etc. It has about 90% accuracy at the moment, even with accents, or if you're talking really fast. And we could see here 90% is a fair number. It could do translations, which is cool. So if I wrote something out, or if somebody wrote something, you can translate it to a different language. And another pretty cool thing here is that if I tap this little AI guy up in the top, we can get a meeting summary. So quickly summarize the meeting content and it will provide us an overview of the meeting. Let's do it. Continue. Let it think for a moment. It clearly wasn't a very long meeting, but let's see what it tells us. And there it goes. So discussions of Docker containers, introduction to connecting systems, detailed explanation with volumes, mounts, talking about the paths. It mentioned that volume names like movies should be defined later in the Docker Compose file. Really, really nice. And then we can switch over here to the original just to see everything that's actually going on here. Now that's one of the AI features. There's other AI features as well. So if I go ahead and get on out of here, down here, we see the same kind of symbol. And if I actually go ahead and swipe on over, it will open up chat. So we have our very own kind of local AI chat. So you could go ahead and type anything. For example, let's go ahead and ask it, how does Docker work? And you can see it typed it out. How does Docker work? And of course you could go ahead and switch it to the keyboard as well if you want to, but I am just going to send that to the little chat prompt. And again, this is a 4-core processor, so it's not going to be the quickest when it comes to spitting out the actual answer, but you can see here it is working at a pretty reasonable pace, just roughly my reading speed, so it is a very handy thing to have at your disposal. So for now, I am going to stop that generation, and what I want to do is dive into some of the scheduling stuff. So one thing, well, first, scheduling is over here. So we have a nice view. We have our full calendar. We have our today to-do. We have a to-do list here. We have focus to-do list, and we have our weekly schedule layout. So you could see earlier last week, I was kind of playing around with it. But one thing I want to show you before we add something manually is if we go over here, let's go ahead and write a new note. And let's say you were jotting down notes for a meeting and somebody said that maybe your professor reminded you I'm going to change away from the paintbrush real quick. Let's go like that. It's a little lighter. The final report is due at 8 p.m. What I could do, I could hit the button up here, or I can hold down the button on the actual pen and give it a little circle. And now it's going to give us some options here. So we could join it to a to-do. We can AI search, clear, or cancel it. So if I click on join to-do, for example, it's going to identify what it's saying. And we can see final report is due at 8 p.m. So I can just hit confirm like that. And now you can see that the join to do has been done successfully. So if I back on out of here and I head over to that calendar, the schedule, go over to do, you can see my final report is due at 8 p.m. And here we have, if we hit the little location button, it will take us back to where that note originated from. We have information, and then the little menu button, we have some options here to move it, delete it, so on. So here we could also go over to the calendar and we can add things to here. So if I did new schedule, you can write it out, whatever it may be, such as doctor's visit. If I confirm that, by default, it's just going to throw it into the day that we had selected. If I do tap on it, we can add remarks. We can change this. If I go out of here, if I tap on the I, for example, here is where we could change the date, set reminders, repeat it, and so on. This also supports bidirectional sync with Google Calendar and Cloud Sync via OneDrive or their application. So that's pretty cool. And this is a e-reader, so something that's important is your ebooks. Now I don't have any books in here, but they do have the user manual in here by default, which is a nice little touch. And it's pretty straightforward. It's your standard kind of e-reader device. You can see I was writing notes on here. If I just touch over, I can go ahead and jump through the pages. You could switch what side changes the direction based on if you're left or right-handed. We have notes. You could disable touch. For the pen, if I tap on that, we can quickly edit our shape, stroke, and eraser here. And then we could go ahead and take notes. For example, if I wanted to circle this and then write some kind of reminder, I could do that. And this would be very helpful if you're reading like PDF academic journals or things like that. Now let's jump out of the user manual, and the very last thing I want to touch on is apps. I mentioned earlier that this was running a very lightweight kind of Android. So if I go over here to the apps, you can see we have a couple. So we have Photos, WPS Office Installation Guide. Not a lot going on by default, which is kind of cool. But if I go more apps, this is not Google Play. And you can see under all, this is the only page. We have a few different options, not a lot. Outlook, Kindle, which is nice. APK Pure, so they don't have Google Play, but you can install APKs. So if you are able to download an APK for whatever app you need, you could throw it on here and you should be good to go. Which that's kind of really the main con for me, is I would like all the Google Play services and all that stuff on here by default. So you just go in and easily download whatever app you want. For somebody who doesn't understand like manual app installations and they're just used to using app stores, that could be a con. If you're interested in checking out the pricing, I'll go ahead and put a link down below. I believe it's $479 on their official store, or you can get it for $499 on Amazon. So again, this is a wonderful little e-ink tablet that merges AI with the kind of paper-like responsiveness of the actual display. So whether if you're jotting notes, transcribing medias, or reading ebooks, this is a very versatile option for general use and productivity. Again, down below I'll have links if you're interested in checking it out. And with all that, I do hope you have an absolutely beautiful day, and goodbye.